The guiding principle of Japan's security policy today has become known under the concept of proactive contribution to peace. This refers to a shifting security policy put in place since the arrival of the administration of Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2012 and reflects the need for Japan to revise its security posture in light of the many security challenges and strategic uncertainties it has been dealing with. Basically, Japan wants to be less of a security consumer and more of a active provider for global security. In a way, it wants to play a role that is commensurate to its national capabilities and its international profile, being a little bit frustrated of the criticism it has been receiving due to its decades-long checkbook diplomacy. While doing so, it of course remains within the limits of its constitution. It's just that the one country pacifism become eventually a global or more proactive pacifism promoting the peace globally. The Abe administration also within this concept introduced a number of firsts, a number of new measures that mark the importance of security for Japan. One of them has been the establishment of a National Security Council, which is an interagency consultancy and advisory body on strategic issues of national importance that is situated directly under the prime ministers. The other one being the national security strategy. In fact, this is the first, in 2013, it was the first security strategy called by that name that Japan published, because until now, Japan has been guided by the national defense policy guidelines only, while this is a proper strategic document in the same way as any wide defense papers. Of course, Abe administration also adapted its defense budget and increased it by roughly 5% as opposed to the previous years in total, while of course we still stay within the 1% of GDP. The national security strategy, therefore, expands on the proactive contribution to peace concept, explaining its 6 pillars. At the national domestic level, we see a pledge to expand and enforce its domestic capabilities, to build a comprehensive defense architecture, and also to deal with some of the joint issues such as cybersecurity, counterterrorism, and the defense of outer space. The US-Japan security alliance is also reinforced in light of the many issues that we discussed in a previous session, pledging more and closer defense cooperation. Japan also wants to cooperate more with other partners, other like-minded partners. Australia, Korea, India are some of them. Europe, potentially some of the European countries such as France, Germany, and the UK as well. It wants to continue a dialogue on some of the common issues with China, and it wants to engage more proactively within some of the regional and global multilateral structures such as the G7, APEC, the East Asia Summit, or the ASEAN Regional Forum. It wants to contribute to international peace and stability within the UN framework, but also within the debate on the global rules-based order, the regulations of some of the new frontiers, such as space and cyber, and of course, to global efforts in disarmament and non-proliferation. The efforts to use this development assistance to promote democratization and human security remains one of the key pillars of Japanese security since always. But we do have a rather novel part, which is the development or greater emphasis on the development of national defense technologies and capabilities. to reinforce the domestic foundations of national security. And yeah, we will see that a little bit more in detail. Now, that is one of the groundbreaking legislations, if you want, in 2014 to push this newly found autonomy in defense technology and equipment production. Japan also lifts the restrictions on arms exports in 2014. This was a self-inflicted ban on arms trade that Japan did within due to its constitutional limitations. So this lift is, of course, done within strict limits. There's the three conditions of arms exports. It should be only destined to countries and to causes that have the potential to contribute to global peace and to enhance Japan's security. They should be, of course, prohibited to countries that are involved in any sort of conflicts, that are under any arms embargo, or in cases where violate the UN Security Council resolution. The third condition is that they should be done in full transparency and control over the end use of those weapons and technology, eventually also to prevent some of the dual use technology transfers. It is a very important and significant step forward because it allows also the joint development cooperation, strengthening cooperation in defense technologies with other like-minded partners, which has been very much in demand. Even before 2014, Japan did engage in limited technological cooperation with the United States, but of course, not within the Security Alliance, but not with others and not directly in arms sales. So it does strengthen the potential for defense cooperation with some of its partners. And it is, in fact, very much also destined to the potential market, the most plausible potential market could be Southeast Asian countries. In fact, there are ongoing talks with Vietnam, with Indonesia and Thailand for allowing some of these arms deals. As you can imagine, this move has been sharply criticized by China, which indirectly feels it is being targeted with this new dynamic, and points out at the effort of Japan to remilitarize, which is one of its biggest nightmares. The Abe's administration's contribution to Japan's security is really quite impressive. Sometimes we even refer to it as the Abe doctrine. It managed to shift Japan's image as a determined, as a proactive security player by just a number of milestones that to summarize. We mentioned the national security strategy, which is a first. The lift of restrictions on defense technology transfers. Importantly, the right of collective self-defense that we mentioned earlier is really an effort to kind of reinterpret the Japanese constitution to allow for this very valuable contribution to global security. In 2016, Japan came up with the concept of free and open Indo-Pacific, which is a grand vision for the management of regional affairs within the Indo-Pacific space. We will talk about this extensively within the next module of our course, so I will not spend too much time on it. But overall, it really managed to strengthen many of those security and defense partnerships with like-minded and long-standing partners such as Australia, India, US, Southeast Asian countries, but of course, also Europe. In 2019, Japan and Europe signed the Economic Partnership Agreement and also a strategic partnership agreement that is currently still work in progress on how to implement it. We will talk about this more in dedicated lectures, specifically on these topics, so I won't go any further. But just to say that we started a new trajectory of Japan's national security policy, which and all these amendments, legal amendments and political shifts that have been enabled by the Abe administration really made Japan a much more valuable and appreciated partner for the United States and for many other international players. There are many questions that lie ahead, is whether this new security trajectory is actually sustainable. What could be the dangers? What could be the reactions of the neighboring countries or even other global players? What could hamper it in the future? Another very important question in the Japanese security agenda is the constantly proposed idea of constitutional revision, whether that is necessary, whether there is something that we should wish for, whether it is actually even doable. And finally, what will be the new developments in Japan's security and defense policy under the new administration of Prime Minister Suga? I will leave you with these final questions as something to ponder on in light of all that has been discussed in this lecture. And I look forward to discussing these and any other outstanding issues and questions you may have on this lecture during our live session. Thank you very much for your attention.